And what role does Belizean culture play in shaping your design philosophy?
Well, the Belizean culture is actually my foundation. Um, I often describe it as like mestizaje. You know, mestizaje is the fusion of traditions, languages, and identities. And in design, that translates for me into blending things that might feel opposite, like rustic and refined, indigenous and contemporary, Caribbean and Central America, right? So every piece I design carries that cultural DNA. When I work with coconut shells or cohoon seeds, I do not just choose materials. I'm embedding a piece of our cultural landscape, our history, our people's resilience in my works. Um, that grounding in culture gives me the design authenticity, and that authenticity is what resonates for a global market.
How do you approach innovation while staying true to traditional craftsmanship?
Well, I don't see innovation and tradition as opposites, but more like partners. Tradition gives us the techniques, the knowledge, the wisdom of the hands that have been creating for generations, you know, especially here in Belize. Like all my artisans, they go back 4 generations working with coconut, working with jipijapa. And innovation is how you reinterpret those techniques for today's context. For example, the basket weaving is an ancient practice here, but instead of making baskets, coasters, I found instead I could collaborate with these artisans to transform the weaving into luxury handbags and even art installations. You know, the hands are still moving at the same rhythm despite of the materials, but the output tells a new story. And so the innovation really is a act of respect, keeping traditions alive, you know, by reinventing and evolving it.
Can you share a success story where a creative risk led to significant business growth?
Well, risk. So actually, I'm a leather artisan. I lived in Antigua for 6, 7 years in Antigua, Guatemala. And there's like a village outside of Antigua that like resonated with me when I saw shoes. So I started making boots. And it was just for my personal curiosity that I started making shoes. And I came back home and I showed off my boots. And like my family and like other people saw it, and like I ended up getting 12 orders, you know, at $900 a shoe as well. You know, so I was like, whoa, you know, so like that was initial capital. I went back to Antigua and that gave me more capital to like experiment with other crafts. You know, like in Antigua is beautiful where you have the town and outside you have various different villages, and each village is in charge of a different material. We had like woodwork in one village, we had like wine in another one, we had metal, you have fabrics, and so it was, for me, I could have gone into these various villages and I had capital so I could like experiment, you know, and that was the fun, that was how do you say, that what started my journey. But, sorry, you said a risk? So yeah, so the risk now was COVID came. So I came back to Belize in 2019 with the intention of becoming like leather work. I was known for leather bags and shoes, and I came back to Belize working with, you know, I saw that we have a leather industry here, and my family has a meat company, so what I was trying to do was seeing how I could convert, you know, the waste product, skin, hides, into making leather. But then COVID happened, you know, and like things changed, and then I realized I didn't have access to any leather, even local nor I couldn't import, and so I had to diversify, and I went into like, you know, what we have, you know, and that was a risk because like, you know, luxury is like how do you say, like luxury especially in the handbags, leather dominates the luxury market. So how could I make mundane materials that are found here, like our fibers, our coconuts, and all of this to resonate with people? And so I would say that, you know, that was my biggest risk, but it paid off because I also learned the power of storytelling, you know, and working and collaborating with our artisans here in Belize. And people resonated and loved seeing the behind the scenes, you know, and the story. And that people didn't buy the product, but bought the story, and because like they're conversation pieces, that's what I learned as well. So they would always, my clients would always tell me when they move around, people were like, oh, I love your handbag, and that would break silence, or when they put it on a table, that would like start and initiate. And it astounded me that they would know the story as well, because they followed me, they know the artisans where I got it, shells, like they knew the entire story with me, and that gave me more like security in using the materials, and I went beyond that. I started combining mixed media, and from there, that's where I am right now.
I kind of feel like you've put coconut, like the simple coconut product that people look at as nothing important into like, you've raised the value of coconut for sure.
Yes, because a lot of people, like again, like, and the beauty of what I do is I don't harm the environment because we pick everything off the ground. You know, like the coconut, I go beach combing and I get all these rotten coconuts, and you'd never think that it could evolve into a product. We have the cocoon, which is one of my favorite. It's the hardest nut in the jungle. Like to penetrate and cut that is quite a task. But I found out, like, you know, like with time and patience and polishing, you know, it became a great product, and it's one of my favorite products to use. And I think, like, I guess patience and belief in design, you know, and that's the power of great design as well, you know, it's transforming things that you would think are insignificant or garbage even into like, now I could make a cocoon bag for $900, which is you know, people would be like, what? And that even in itself motivated my artisans, because then their mind started triggering and they're like, maybe we could use this material. And so they would go into the jungle and bring me materials, you know, and I was like, oh, so I have an entire library, like a shelf with all these materials that our artisans, they give me. And then over time, when I have break, you know, we combine and see. Again, the experimentation is always constant.
What advice would you give to emerging creatives looking to scale their brands internationally?
I mean, I personally have that, I wouldn't say a problem, but how I look at it is that I would say you start rooted. You know, you start at home and then you go out, you reach out. You know, if your work, or at least if the work doesn't come from a place of cultural grounding and authenticity, I wouldn't have a story strong enough to carry with me anywhere, to resonate here in Belize or abroad. I collaborate with various communities, learn from artisans, and take time to developing my craft. When you step into international markets, you have to think long term. It's not about a quick trend, but building a community and building a brand that's sustainable. Finally, I don't be afraid of partnering with other people, you know, whether it's with other creatives, with business mentors, or like with other institutions like Beltrade and other like NGOs. You know, creativity strives on collaboration, and scaling is always a collective effort.
If I can quickly just add something to that, I think one of the big ones too is like just starting before you feel like you're ready. I feel like a lot of times people wait until they have this feeling of being ready. A lot of times that feeling doesn't even come. So whether it means like putting yourself in a situation where you feel very uncomfortable. I remember when I did my first pitch, my voice was shaking, I was super nervous, but still, despite the feeling of being uncomfortable, still putting myself in that position opened so much avenues for me. So definitely stepping out your comfort zone is a big one.
Yes, and I think a lot of our artisans are afraid, and I mean, it's very scary out here, especially in the creative industry, or like Belize is very young, and we compared to like, again, I worked in Guatemala, in Mexico, and I see how they have so much access to materials and to artisans, and I worked outside of Belize for like 15 years, you know, and I came back home in 2019 with all this wealth of information that I gathered outside, and I was like, why can't we do this here? And the crazy thing is that we have all of this here, and it's all on the ground. You know, you go to Tulum, you go to like in Spain, like wherever, like in Africa, they convert all these materials into beautiful products, and you see them again in Architectural Digest, and you see them in Vogue. And I was like, we have all of this here. So like for me, and again, for our cultural pride, I see something beautiful and creating something beautiful. And again, having like the Belizeans resonate with the product and the vision, and my vision is like it feeds me more. And again, I have like a team of other people Like I have other designers, other creatives that we work together and bounce around ideas because it's non-existent. It doesn't exist here, and I'm fortunate to have my group of friends now, and even family, you know, and to share your ideas. Because sometimes, again, like you're in your mind, and all of us, I've come to realize, like we stay in our head and we don't have an avenue, you know, and we're like, would this work? Would this not work? And just bouncing around ideas with my other creatives, like it builds like momentum, and also it builds strength, you know, to make, or even if I have a design, like I would reach out to them and they would like, yeah, this could work, and like, or they know a guy who could help me with this, and that's the beauty of coming back home actually, because like when I was out there and trying to do this, I was a number, and just accessing or like working with photographers or your marketing was so difficult because who am I? Well, I came home and I realized like I had access, and that's like our biggest thing, you know, having access. Like I had friends reaching out, can I take your pictures? And everyone was reaching out, and I was like, and so that helped me advance, you know, in my business as well. And yes, Kaja, I mean, it's like, and you're no stranger. I mean, you're one of the creatives that have been here. You're a pioneer as well. And like slowly, like you're no stranger to like your storytelling and how you go about doing your business. And that actually helped me because I identified with a lot of the problems and also the solutions that you have in doing your business. And so I wanted to like, how do you overcome challenges in sourcing materials, you know, and scaling your production?
That's a good question. So I think it starts with building strong relationships with our suppliers. One of the biggest challenges we had in the very beginning was that we would constantly be running out of gold filled. So we would have people wanting to make orders, but we didn't have the raw materials in stock. And the biggest game changer that happened recently is that our gold supplier created a program for their platinum customers, which throughout the years we've managed to get into that platinum customer group, where they now have a reserve of gold for us. So even if, let's say, somebody that's not a platinum customer, if you go on their website, you might see that this gold wire is out of stock, but they have a reserve for us. So that means that we won't ever run into that problem where we're running out of materials.
And that's a space where you've developed over the years. So like one of the biggest, I would say, to overcome that challenge is patience. You know, it's like as I'm in that same space with my supplier, you know, like my leathers, I source my leathers from Italy. So my leathers are all vegetable dyed to go along with our sustainable goals, you know. And so like sourcing, and I'm a small purchaser, so like I put on the back burner, so sometimes they wouldn't have the leather because they have other people that buy in bigger bulks. So, and like over the years, I've been working and scaling up on their list, you know, so I now get benefits with like shipping, but I want to get to that VIP area where if I want the brown, I could get the brown at, you know, at just like a click.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't happen overnight. Like
No.
we've been buying from them for 15 years.
Yeah, because
So.
many times I felt like I have an order and they want like bags in brown, and then my supplier doesn't have brown, or they're withholding it, but I can't have access to it. So how do I go back to my client? And like, so I've always been adjusting and like, you know, sorry, like, and again, my clients, at least people understand, you know, the story of handmade and the value of handmade, you know, and so their patience as well has allowed me to grow. And so, this question is, in what ways does storytelling enhance the value of Kaj expressions?
I feel like storytelling is the heart of Catch Expressions. Everybody that knows us know that we are not just sharing the highlights or everything that's working out well. Like I share real behind the scenes. I share when I'm going to Brazil and bringing my kids along to source materials. And so I feel like that puts value on our products. And it really allows people to connect with my brand in a very relatable way. I'm sharing challenges of motherhood, and other moms can relate to that. So that enables us, I feel like, to ask a premium price for our product, because I'm not just sharing the finished product, I'm sharing step by step and what all went in to creating that product.
Yeah, you're in control of the entire line of production, and like the beautiful thing is that you carry people along on your journey, and people understand. I mean, it adds value and it gives meaning to the product. So you're not also just buying jewelry, it goes beyond that, right? And people resonate with that. I agree.
Precisely.
So, how have you adapted your business strategies to respond to global trends and customer expectations?
That's a good one. I feel like customers are constantly expecting us to keep innovating, and that's not always easy. When you're trying to focus on the business side and grow the business, and when you're wearing all the hats. But I've tried to innovate and invested a lot in my own skill building. I recently went to Italy to learn to do stone setting. So whereas for like many years, like up to 10 years, we were creating mainly just wire jewelry. Making that investment and being there for 6 weeks, although it was super challenging, and I spent so many days looking under that microscope and like literally crying because it was super challenging. It's now increased my skill to where I can create like a different level of products.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes the hardest part, just leveling up, like, especially like in my case as well, like, people expect, and you don't want to see the same thing over and over, so that again challenges us, to innovate, right?
And being willing to like feel the pain of leveling up. You don't just say, I want to level up, and you level up. Like you literally have to go in there and feel the pain of
Yeah,
that.
it takes sacrifice and it takes
Major
planning.
sacrifice.
Yeah. So what partnerships or collaborations have been key to your growth?
Many of them. So partnering with the local artisans in San Pedro, Colombia, and then sharing the story behind the Jippy Japa has been key. The most recent one that I can think of is partnering with shipping company Joseph Freight. They have helped us to literally or upgrade our entire production space by bringing in new chairs, new equipment, all of that, so that partnership has really helped us.
And how did you do that partnership? Like,
It's by simply asking, do you want to collaborate? I feel like a lot of times people don't even ask the question. Like I met somebody earlier that's in the audience. I've always been interested in real estate, and I feel like when you put yourself out there, you align with the right people. I was going down the stairs exact time he was going, and it was like the perfect opportunity to ask, like, how can I join your team? And he said, here, let's have a meeting. It's all about asking.
yeah, and I resonate with that too because I have problems just like putting my ideas or like just asking and then having like, a fear of no, but again, failure is part of this process, right? So how do you ensure sustainability and ethical practices in your craft while maintaining profitability?
That's a good question. So, I mean, our product is a sustainable product. We're taking lionfish, which is an invasive species, and we're creating products with that. So that in itself will always be sustainable. And with the storytelling, because we are sharing exactly what it is that goes into the product, and then we are pairing the lionfish. This isn't, I know there are other people that are doing lionfish, but ours is different because we're pairing it with gold and high quality materials that I'm like physically going to these countries to source. I feel like that gives us the opportunity to put a premium price on our product, and then that enables us to pay our staff better, and
Yeah, because
that
you have
makes it
control of the
ethical.
entire line of production, right? So again, that how
Exactly.
is maximized. But as over time, you've managed to build like a community of all your like your employees and like
Yeah.
training them and making sure quality control.
That's one of the things I'm proud to say is that I think we're one of the higher paying companies. Like we pay our staff really well and we give a lot of benefits, and to me that's really important.
That's easy, especially here in Belize. Like what I've found is like, you train someone and then they leave and do something else because Belize is so small that everyone is trying. And again, as well, I found out like, again, you treat your guys or your girls right, they stay and you treat them like family. I've become, in a space as well where like I have a great team, but that had like took over time. And again, they're part of like my family now. And then so that even gives them motivation to like further, like they come to work much earlier and they don't want to leave because they enjoy the space. And I tried to foster that space so that they could also help me and I could leave and be here, while the workshop is still there and I could trust them. And so it takes a very long while. But like, again, I guess that's the goal, right? to be
Patience.
sustainable in our craft.
Exactly.
Yes,
So I know everybody's like ready to go for lunch, and thank you all for sitting this out, even though we're all hungry in the room.
yes. Thank you, guys.
I think that was good conversation to feast on, definitely. So I like to see what we're doing within the orange economy space. You know, Beltrail, of course, the government of Belize are big supporters of the orange economy. And a strong focus of this year's Belize Investment Summit, what you see like with the fashion show and these type of panels is because we're putting you guys more out there, but you're doing very good work. So thank you so much for that and accommodating us.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys. Buen provecho.
And with that, because you won't need much time for lunch, you can go for lunch and we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you so much. It's cool?
Walking alone by the roadside, covered in dust, cars speeding by. Nobody stop, nobody slow down. Everybody in a hurry to move along. Watina, sitina, muretina, tuma lugune na mua. Mati ayulante, kanukulina. I called out, I shouted out loud. I got money in my pocket, but they make me feel like I'm bum. Hey, hey, Lord, please help me, even if I'm alone. Kungi yo baba, sasi baby, ni biwanu wo, ni bairune. Mama luwe giye nani ya kukuo, luni basanze luni ni biwanu ni bapatu. Ikirano ye bembana ya, lukuyume. Yakangudano ye bembana ya, lukuyume.
Are you ready to start? Because I can go down the list of things that are nice. So, welcome back to this afternoon session of the Belize Investment Summit 2025. We still have a very packed day of activities and presentations, conversations that will be happening. And of course, I always repeat that investor meetings are happening, connections are being made. One was made in a staircase. So this is exactly where, or the point of the Belize Investment Summit itself, right, to make these connections. But we will continue this afternoon discussion with the first panel, and this is on next generation digital services. So there's a focus on the BPO industry. And on this panel, we have our introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Belize Investment Summit 2025 stage, Carmen Sosa, Interim Executive Director of the Economic Development Council, David Ahuja of Tech Forge, Yoni Epstein, Founding Chairman and CEO of ITEL, Tony Arzo, Acting President of the BPO Association, Shantae Riley, Director of Partnership and Growth at Equity BPO.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I know that being the segment that happens right after lunch, we have that very important task of keeping everybody's attention alive. And so I'm certain that with the distinguished panel that we have here, I'm representing leading digital firms in the sector, will be able to keep your attention alive. And so, as we start, first again, I will highlight the title for today's panel discussion is Next Generation Digital Services, moving from near shore to next frontier. And so across the summit, we've been hearing about the BPO sector and the importance that it plays in Belize's economy. And so the Belize's global digital services sector has grown steadily in the recent years, and it has become a significant contributor to Belize's economic development. Some of that growth is as a result of its offering in terms of competitive advantages in the workforce, its proximity to key markets, particularly the North American market, improvements in ICT infrastructure, and as the global demand for outsourced services evolves, driven by artificial intelligence, by cybersecurity, and multilingual support, Belize emerges as a promising location for next generation service delivery. Our panel today will be exploring the sector's transition from the traditional BPO to higher value digital services. They will highlight how Belize is positioning itself to capture investment in areas such as customer experience transformation, in the areas of fintech, health tech, and software development. They will share their perspectives on how we can build the right talent and improve the enabling environment to move Belize up the global value chain. And so we move into the beginning of our discussion, and I would like to invite Mr. David Auha to address our first question for this segment. And just as a brief introduction, Mr. David Auha is a Belizean digital transformation executive and founder of DA Advisory. He specializes in accelerating value delivery through digital services transformation and AI solutions. And so, Mr. Auha, your question is, what, from your perspective, makes Belize an attractive destination for tech and digital services investment?
Happy to be here. And the easy answer is look this way and that way, and you see that beautiful water, and that's the reason why Belize is a good place. But so while I'm a Belizean and I've worked closely with Belizean companies like TechForge, I'm going to answer this from a outside-in perspective, because most of my time I've spent 35 years in tech working with outsourcing to U.S. companies like McKinsey, like Accenture, like Deloitte, who have a full stack of follow the sun. Indian companies like TCS, Tata Consulting, Infosys, and then more boutique companies that do outsourcing. So regardless of what company it is, there's a few characteristics that's just fundamental that you must have, and they're kind of obvious. Number one is you absolutely must have a good infrastructure, and that means high-speed internet, that means telecom network, that means good power grid, and that means redundancy. Okay. Most of the countries that are competing in this space have that, but you must have that as a foundation. Number two, and probably the most important in this industry, your product, it's people. And the capital, talent, and development of people is number two. And that's a very broad statement because it depends on what your service or your project is in terms of what talent you're looking for. But that's, depending on the project, that's number two. Number three is location. And the good news is we've heard that over and over, location, location. However, there isn't a one location that's great. So it's not that geographically Belize is located in a place where the time zone is perfect. It's perfect for some projects. But if you think of a project where I want a prototype the next day, ideally I want a 24-hour gap. I may have a project where I want iterative engagement with a client, with a vendor, and therefore I want a close nearby Mexico, Belize, South America, nearshore service. So location is critical. Cost competitiveness. Belize isn't the cheapest location, but it's pretty competitive, right? So it's not about cost. Typically, if you go outsourcing, you're looking at cost reduction in some way, shape, or form, but the other factors play more. You need to be competitive, but you don't have to be the cheapest place. You can go to the Philippines and pay really, really cheap, but you may not get the same talent. And really important, and I'm amazed at what I've heard over the last 2 days, the last is really about the government investment, legislation, and policies to support. And this becomes extremely important as you transition into what's about to come next in the area of AI. The controls and management and governance of data and information is fundamental. And no company will come operate in Belize if you don't have the policies that we heard yesterday and today. The Prime Minister touched on this. Many of the ministers touched on this. I think Belize is well aware and lining up to having the right policies. Let me come back to talent just for a quick second. We talked a lot about upskilling, and the three of us have been talking over lunch quite a bit. Upskilling is not as simple as it sounds. We absolutely need to make sure we upskill the BPO industry to the right level, but the ability to engage in the work that I'm talking about, what I've seen transition from the US to India and to Latin America, is a much, much higher level. And that is not upskilling a BPO resource. That is a completely different game that Belize needs to get into. And that means proper education, building that talent for what I would call advanced. And that's, again, we absolutely need to do that to be competitive in what's to come in the future. And when I say the future, now. AI and what's going to be transitioning. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But Belize is ready. I mean, proven by the BPOs, major BPOs that's operating, all those characteristics exist here already.
The key things to keep in mind from Mr. Auha's presentation are three things. One, we need to have the right infrastructure in place, right? The second one, we need to capitalize on our people and developing the right talent to move the industry to where we want it to be. And then the third one is Belize's location is ideal for these things to happen. And so this lays out a good segue for the next question. So I'm addressing Mr. Tony Erzu. He currently serves as the president of Belize's BPO Association. He brings 2 decades of international experience in technology operations, in business process outsourcing, and public-private collaborations. As BPO president, his focus is on building the employment opportunities and strengthening Belize's digital global footprint. Mr. Arzu, your question is, what are you, as the president of the association, doing to support skills development and digital upskilling to meet future demands? Let's keep in mind that in the recent years, actually since 2024, through the support of IDB and through the support of the BPO Association, the Ministry of Investment has been preparing the guiding strategies and policies to develop the right ecosystem for the sector and to upskill and add value to the industry. So, Mr. Arzu, what's the association's role in ensuring that we develop the right talent and the digital upskills
Well,
to meet future demand?
To add to that, we've also developed a curriculum that can help students, I would say probably in like second form and above, that they can start learning how to work in a BPO environment. But not only in a BPO environment. If you learn customer service, you learn sales, you learn how to show up to work on time, you learn how to take responsibility, you learn how to create reports and all these different things. You can take that and go into any other industry and perform very well. So, and you get the confidence once you learn these things to walk up to and have an interview. And so we've been working hard on creating it at a lower level. I mean, I know we have all this, right now we have cybersecurity coming, we have ASW coming, we have all this good high-level training coming with the help of the IDB. But the curriculum we developed was to start a little bit lower, to get people going as quickly as possible. A lot of people come into the call center industry and they are thinking it's just sitting on the phone and talking to someone all day. But what happens when you get promoted? And I think all of us in the BPO industry, we try to create a system where everyone can come in, start basic, and then keep moving up. So to be able to do that, we have to provide those necessary training to help them out.
And I think that that's one of the things that the government is trying to do, ensure that the BPO sector becomes a chosen career path, not just at the entry levels, but to be able to move talent up higher tier services. And so I address now Ms. Shante Riley. She is the Director of Partnership and Growth at Acuity BPO. She plays a pivotal role in positioning the company as a premier nearshore bilingual customer support partner. And so we've been listening at the necessary ingredients needed for building the sector. And my question to you, Ms. Riley, is from a very realistic view, from your experience working in this sector, what are the barriers and the opportunities that you have encountered in scaling operations in Belize?
The question, Carmen. One of the things that we've encountered when scaling operations here is just looking into the location, right? Location for Belize is ideal, especially when we have clients that are coming from a lot of the major cities, like Houston, Dallas, Miami, and just to name a few. But also this bilingual talent pool that we have here in Belize is also impressive as well. So when we think about that, that's certainly a great opportunity here. Also, the cultural alignment, looking at Belize and the cultural alignment, a lot of the agents here and the people here in Belize, they are familiar with the U.S. culture, which is going to be very key when having conversations with clients, because that's exactly what they're looking for. So I think, as we look at those, things, I think that's certainly something to be proud of. And also the opportunities that the government is providing here, it's also good. Understanding that they are looking more and putting money into the infrastructure is key.
Again, we know that building the right infrastructure is necessary. So we move into the second set of questions for this segment. And Mr. Auha, How can Belize capitalize on global trends like AI, automation, and remote work to scale up? And particularly, I'd like you to address in terms of artificial intelligence and the risk associated with that. How can we transform that risk to building the right confidence for the sector to then integrate artificial intelligence into their operations and use that as a competitive advantage?
Big question. So when Carmen asked me about this question, I said, how do you expect me to talk about AI in 5 minutes or less? This is a topic I'm very passionate about. And a couple things I'll say first. I'll give some context before we get into even addressing the question. First of all, AI is nothing new. It's been around for 50 years. You've been using, everyone in this room, I promise you've been using AI in your email. If you're using Google right now, you're using AI. So we use that term and it's this big, right? I think the first thing is it needs to be simplified on what it means. Let me just share maybe 3 context examples to give us some context, and hopefully as we talk about Belize specifically, it may make more sense. So I worked for Procter & Gamble, and you guys probably, again, everyone here probably have a box of Tide, a Pampers, or Vicks, or Gillette in your house. Massive manufacturer. They have 139 factories around the world, 35 countries. And for about 10 years, we've been optimizing our factories, and optimizing with purpose of reducing one of our biggest costs and expense to make products more efficient, right? And what does that optimization look like over the last 10 years? We now have what's called dark factories. Does anyone know what that is? Anyone heard of a dark factory? It's a factory with no lights. Why does it have no lights? Because there's no one in the factory. They don't need people, right? So think about that for a second. A 500 million factory with no people. Now, some early stage, there's still people going in there, but the idea being these factories run themselves. Okay? This is not new. This is happening all over the world already, of having these dark factories and dark manufacturing. Okay? Second example, so that's an example of AI at its best. Thousands of sensors in that factory. Second example, Walmart, one of the biggest retailers in the world. My team of data scientists worked on a project 8 years ago to use computer visioning to look at strawberries, to optimize how strawberries get delivered to you as a customer at its freshest point. We use computer imagery to look at a product as it's picked, as it's packed, and as it's shipped, to quickly route through the supply chain that product to the right store so that it gets at the store within the right time frame of freshness for a consumer to purchase it, right? Which might be, I don't know the specific science of it, 3 to 10 days for purchase, so it's at its best when you consume that product. Okay? That's AI. Again, we didn't call it that. It's machine learning and computer imaging, but that's AI that's been there 8 years ago. Now, why is it such a buzz on this thing called AI? There's something called ChatGPT. Who's heard of that? Everyone's heard of that, right? That's a recent thing, and that's a concept called generative AI that, oh, by the way, ChatGPT isn't the only one. There are tons of various, I use what's called Claude. Google has, I'm going to try, Meta has Llama. Google has Gemini, DeepSeek, and they're all different. They're trained in different ways, right? So I think what has happened is there were, let's see if I remember the specific, 100 million users of ChatGPT in 2 months. It's the fastest adoption of any technology ever. And that has made it this sort of common terminology. But ChatGPT is a small piece of what's going on in the AI world, right? So again, I share this for context to say this concept is big, and I don't know that people fully understand when we say AI, what are we talking about and what do we want to go do? So let's talk about Belize. Where will Belize play in this space? I think the best advice I heard yesterday from Adam on the tourism industry is know where you want to play, define it, declare it, and go shape it. Okay? No different here. Where do we want to play? Someone asked me, and maybe you asked me yesterday, should we be scared? Is it nervous? Is there risk? Heck yes. It's a totally different concept of cognitive thinking, and AI is doing its own thinking and decision making. We should be concerned. But that disruption is happening everywhere. So everyone needs to deal with this. It's the perfect platform to say, yep, it's about to be disrupted. We want to play a big role in here. This is the role we're going to play, and let's go figure it out. And there are lots of different areas. So I'm not going to tell you Belize should go do X, Y, and Z, right? But there's my core, I'm a data guy at heart. And as we were talking, absolutely nothing can happen in AI without data. So there's an example of just a single thing that you could create an industry around data for AI to enable what we know will happen over the next 15, 20 years, right? I mean, this is not going to stop in terms of the utilization of various forms of AI. So I think Belize has a couple things it needs to do. One, it needs to stay close to it. It needs to stay educated on it. And it needs to stay in tune with what's happening, because it's going to happen very fast. I heard one of the, I guess, transformation that's going to come with AI is called a shock factor. When it happens, a lot of things that we've evolved into, it evolves, and you kind of feel it as you go along. What's going to happen is we're going to start to see some dramatic things occur. It's already happening, that will just change industries instantly, right? Let's not wait for that. We should be anticipating that. So one, stay in tune, stay connected, stay educated with what is happening in AI. Make a choice of where Belize will play. We talked a little bit about BPO, and I hear a lot of talk about upskilling. You cannot take the people working in the BPO and upskill them to play in this space. They are two different things. And I think there needs to be a very focused effort on how do we take the BPO market and upskill them to wherever we think they need to go next as that gets impacted. How do we look at the, call it higher scale, and that could be from engineering development to data science that's going to be fundamental to AI, and develop the capabilities there. Okay? So those are strategic choices that needs to happen somewhere. This gentleman here has a lot of impact, right? He influences and works closely with the BPO industry. So, we talked a lot about training and things like that. Somewhere, people need to start bringing this together, because it's happening fast, and you do not want to get left behind in this one, because the implications of it will be dramatic. Dramatic in terms of what will happen in every industry. I can tell stories about agriculture and what we've been doing in agriculture with sensors and feeding cows and cattle. I mean, these things have been happening. Do not get left behind. That is my core message for AI. Understand it, define it, strategically choose where you want to play, and make sure you make a step forward in it, because it's going to happen to us if we wait.
The reality is AI has been here and it's here to stay, and so we just need to evolve with it. The other question I'll be addressing Mr. Arzu with is, yes. I think Mr. Auha pointed it out that you are at a very critical point of influence in making sure that we develop the right ecosystem to drive the BPO sector forward. And so how can Belize then strengthen its digital ecosystem to support both startups and established service providers?
Does that work? Oh, there you go. There's my sexy voice. So, oh, sorry. I was thinking that in my head. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Well, I think we're already doing that. I've been in a couple of meetings, I think, with Finance Belize and the EDC, and they're already preparing processes to make things much easier for us to be able to access information. For example, a lot of people want to come to Belize and start a business, but they have no idea how to do it. Who do they talk to? They may hire a consultant to walk them through some stuff, but even the consultants are having issues locating the right person to talk to get information. And I think they're taking steps to work to make it a little bit more streamlined, meaning you can go online and find out exactly who you need to speak to, what department. Almost like a checklist. Okay, you want to start a business, you need this, and this, and this. As opposed to where we are now, if you call one person, you get an answer, you got to call 5 other persons to get the same answer, or they don't know what it is. So I think right now, I'm already seeing, just by a couple of the other boards I sit on, those changes and those processes are being put in place and online very quickly. That said, I think the government is doing a real good job at that, at looking ahead and trying to create these opportunities for people to get things done a lot faster. And I think that's going to be it. For example, in the immigration, I think I spoke with the head of immigration today, and they're talking about how to be able to get people who want to do a business in Belize, want to start a business in Belize, get them, I'm not going to use the word fast track, but get them their citizenship and get them the papers and stuff like that to be able to come as an investor and keep improving Belize. So I'm seeing the changes already happening.
Yeah. More and more, we're moving toward what is an enabling environment for investments. The government is doing a lot in ease of doing business, and I think that we're seeing the ripple effects that it has on business, right? And setting up those one-stop shops where you can just come and have access to a number of services, I think is important for reducing cost.
Reducing cost and time.
And time for doing business.
And it's been done on, I can say my own experience that I've gotten a lot of help from the government. I opened a call center in Curzon, and the speed at which I was able to get that up and running compared to when I opened my first one in San Ignacio is completely different. So I can see that they're really supporting growth and business in the country. But not everyone knows who to call, what department to go to and who to talk to, and I think that's what they're working on to streamline that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mr. Arzu. And now we'll be talking about how to build partnerships. Ms. Riley, what partnerships, whether local or regional, could help Belize become that digital service hub that we want it to be?
So as we talk about partnerships, let's talk maybe foundation a little bit. So at Acuity, one of the things that we do really well is building a really strong culture with our employees. We are about to open a daycare facility on site. We help employees with transportation. We have employee fun days. And also, just being able to offer these services is what's going to help employees be able to come to work and be, the best employee that they can be. So I think just looking into that, but also as the two gentlemen we were all talking earlier, just having more conversations with BPO associations, a company like TechForge being able to provide value and understand, transparently where we all are and where we are looking to grow. I think, just bridging that gap and having that alignment is going to set us up for success. We're going to have a mixer coming up very soon. It's just in the making. We just had a conversation about that, but we're all excited about that. Just being able to all work together, I think it's going to be important. Belize has really great people. And from my experience, just in having conversations, everyone cares, about the job that they do. And being able to partner with the schools, universities, get them certifications is going to be very key in continuing the success here.
Thank you.
Done AI in the BPO sector. Thank you, by the way. Appreciate that. We have 1 minute left. Appreciate that, bro. Um, so currently in my BPO, we're using AI for quality control. AI will be disruptive to the BPO industry very quickly. One of the reasons that we're striving to get higher skilled, higher trained is because the basic job like setting appointments, gathering information, even just like a basic sales can be done by AI. And you can have one AI agent do 500 things. You don't have to buy 7, 8 different AI agents. You can have one AI agent answer 500 calls at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. But again, AI is not going to replace humans. Please don't worry about that. But the basic 1, 2, 3 ABC stuff, taking information, what's your name, where you live, what's your address, that will go away very quickly. So it's very important that we work together to get people trained as quickly as possible to start doing the higher tier learning.
Correct.
All right?
And so if you are exploring opportunities in this space, whether as a provider, an investor, or a client, this is the moment to see Belize as a land of opportunities and as that digital bridge to Latin America and beyond. Thank you, and thank you, panelists, for a very interesting and interactive conversation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we have time for question and answers, I'm being told. And so if there's anyone with any interesting question, you can. Perhaps as you ask your question, you also indicate who it is that you'd like to address it to. Thank you.
Hello, hi, good afternoon. My name is Travis, and it was pretty good to hear you guys talk about that. I'm the CEO of Talent Connect Recruitment Agency, LLC. So basically what we'll be doing, the young man, I forgot, what was your name? David. So what our company aims to do, we aim to not only provide roles for what Belize already has, whether sales, customer service, but what's going to make our company successful is we plan to teach these things. We will facilitate an academy where everyday Belizeans will be able to learn ethical hacking, cybersecurity. We'll have an academy they can learn. And my question is, what would be the biggest challenge that, for example, like a startup like myself will have?
I think, again, I'm big on choices and focus.
Okay.
You mentioned cybersecurity and something else.
So we're basically going to position ourselves as a digital and telecommunications solutions provider, since the future is digital and we understand that. And the Belize market hasn't been exposed to that. So we would capitalize as what I believe the first company to do that.
My suggestion to you would be focus and get a very clear strategy first. Digital is a big term.
Yeah. So our focus, how we will do it, our roles are basically remote. We don't have basically just subscription services what we're paying, but for the most part, our roles are remote. So agent can get a role, as we scale, we're going to provide computers, so that won't be a limitation. So after that, year 3, we position ourselves as an academy where rather than going to UB, you can learn digital skills right at our facilities.
Again, fantastic, but focus.
Yeah.
I can list 10 different domains within digital that are completely different. Cyber is completely different from data science, completely different. Yeah. So if you don't focus, you're going to be doing a whole lot of things without knowing, in the end, what's the purpose of it? Who are you going to sell that service to and those talent to? Know what that is first, frame that up first, and focus on one thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the audience?
I actually am going to ask you.
What the hell? Okay, go ahead.
So, as a VPO commission, what is the focus on leveraging on education to actually make the BPO industry a growing industry here and secure jobs for the future generation.
Leveraging existing education or more
Leveraging
education?
existing and transforming it for the future.
I do know that there are a couple colleges, universities here in Belize that are currently training very advanced. I think St. John's, from what I heard, they have a very amazing curriculum. I think that needs to be spread across the country overall, not just at one location. I think if we can get, I think someone was talking about they went to a couple of the universities and they were teaching computer repair. Let's stop doing that. You know, let's get that a little bit higher than that. Computer repairs, I mean, most people are not repairing computers anymore. It's cheaper to just get another one. Let's find something that people can use and people can actually move forward and create a job. For example, a lot of the projects I have on my floor, hence the word BPO, that's being done in a brick and mortar in the US somewhere. So it's not just selling a widget. It's an actual skill set that you need. So if they get a chance to go to the US or travel abroad, they go there with a skill set as opposed to just having to be a security guard or CNA or something like that. You know, I think we got to create that, give them a skill set that they need. No problem.
One last question from the audience, if anyone would like to. Okay, one more question over at this end.
Minister's up. Any question?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know Mr. Tony was saying that AI won't take your job, but I wanted to know, what does it look like 5 years from now, considering we're seeing deep fake? Not to put you in the hot seat, but I used to say AI won't take your job, and recently I've been telling people you have to watch out for AI. Am I wrong?
Hello? I think if you have one of those repetitive jobs, and I mean that you really don't need to think, you just get up and do it. You know, you could be talking and it's like typing. Those will get replaced very quickly because it's a simple algorithm to just write it and do it. All right. I have a couple of projects on my floor where you have to look at 6 different CRMs. Now, that is kind of hard to replace. If I'm sitting to one CRM, I can just put that information on that. So it all depends on what your job is right now. And so it's not going to take your job, but if you have the basic job and you're not increasing your skill and you're not taking the time to learn yourself, you will get replaced. Now, everyone knows that there's a thing, such a thing called YouTube University.
Yeah.
You can get these skills on YouTube.
Yes.
So do it.
Yeah.
We encourage our agents, we encourage our staff to go and do self-learning, self-paced training. I also suggest certain things they should do because, as I said, they will get replaced. Yeah. Not out of malice, but the fact is, if I can take those same people and do something higher and pay them more,
Yeah.
then I'll take the opportunity to do it as well.
Right. Thank you so much. Once again, can we give the panel a round of
Thank you very
applause
much.
and Ms. Carmen? Thank you for your contributions.
By the way, Carmen said she was told that I talk too much. Ms.
Sorry?
Carmen, that's what you were told I talk too much, you have to watch my time. It wasn't my time, it was his time. He took all the better time this time.
Great presentation. So what I was mentioning to Travis just now is he kind of spoke a little bit about his pitch itself and his business, but I want to give you a little bit more time on stage. So welcome, Travis.
I mean, I wish I had more time, but 1 minute is what I got, right? So I'll try to make it. But what I want to say is that starting off is that our company understands that the future is digital. And unfortunately, I feel, because I have over 20 years in the call center industry, I've been to many successful companies. I've been in the highest departments. I know how these companies work and how they operate. So I'm one of the best person to build our own company that understands the sector. And we are positioning ourselves as the company that does what the call center fails to do, and that is give value to our agents. And that's how we're not going to position ourselves as a company that has the best rates, or we're going to position a company that has the best values, that has the best team, that has the best everything. We're positioning ourselves as that. And how we aim to do that is we aim to start off with roles that Belizeans already understand: sales, customer service, things that our population already knows how to do well. And as we scale, we plan to provide our academy, which is going to pivot our company to teach more. For example, the young man mentioned focusing on one thing. So that thing may be cybersecurity or hacking, because as AI grows, they will need people to actually prevent hackers. So we'll teach ethical hacking and scale from there. Providing these roles, we're an academy. You can learn not only that, but you can actually, our aim is to provide a role where you no longer have to search for a job and you no longer have to leave. We also plan to be one of the first company outside of the government to have some pension plan where an employee can work for us 10 years, and when they finish that 10 years, they have something to look forward to. So our website will facilitate our learning, which I unfortunately can't display our website, but our website will put where you can have subscription, you can get updates, upcoming jobs, jobs that are available, and you can also pay for our learning. So unfortunately, if you can scan the QR code and see our Facebook page, and we plan to do a lot more. So at this point in my business, I've built everything. I built the website, I built the Facebook. Now it's just building the infrastructure and acquiring our first clients. So for the most part, we have minimal overhead expense, just subscription services and probably, social and so forth. But for the most part, everything has been built. It's now just security measures for AI and so forth. But yes, that's my company. Oh, also I'll be giving out business cards before everybody leaves, just so you can, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like Travis was giving away his entire business model just now. And that's why we say 1 minute elevator pitch, so you don't give too much. But that was well done, Travis. Thank you so much. We will be going into our next panel discussion. This one is on capturing new global markets and redefining the luxury experience. I know yesterday we had the opportunity to hear from our guest speaker, Adam Stewart, especially when we speak on Belize's luxury hotels and so forth. On this panel, we have
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Belize Investment Summit 2025 stage, Dustin Rennie, Regional Director of Remax Belize, Gustavo Hiron, Managing Director at Astrom Helicopters, Scott McCardle, General Manager at Alaya Belize, Andres Madrigal, Manager of Development, Caribbean and Latin America at Marriott International.
So this presentation will explore how Belize, with its unique cultural heritage, pristine environment, and emerging industries, can position itself as a premier destination for global markets. Go ahead.
Green? It doesn't matter, whatever's easier. I can stand. Oh, sure, perfect. Hello, I'm Dustin. I'm lucky enough to moderate this. It's also amazing to actually have a pretty cool panel here when it comes to luxury tourism, new markets. You have airstream and connectivity. You got the man behind Alaya, which is definitely defines a lot of the luxury sector here in San Pedro, and then Andreas with Marriott International, who has seen luxury and new markets grow over the years. So thank you, everybody, very much. Thanks for attending, and pretty excited to cover what we can do to chat about new markets and luxury tourism. I think, what was it, Adam Stewart touched on that there was connectivity, Gustavo, there was infrastructure, and then there was also the service sector. So Welcome, guys, to the panel. And I think to kick it off, Gustavo, good to see you. The Prada sunglasses, as you're looking stylish. Gustavo, for connectivity with Airstrom, what can you see in Belize that could improve the connectivity, and maybe even something simple that could be a big leap forward for connectivity in Belize?
Well, with connectivity, what we do is we service a niche market that has been a game changer for the luxury market in Belize that allows customers to go from the airport to direct destinations, for example, a remote island. But it's not only a transportation service we provide, in itself, it's an experience. So, for example, if you're going out to Turnif or Carespanto or down to the Gladden Split, you get to see the reef from the air and maybe some marine life along the way. So we're providing an easy way to get customers to remote destinations and also a massive time savings. But this is also a very niche market, as other panelists have said. So you need the broad range of the different markets in order to have that.
Actually, I also know Emilio at the airport really well.
Yes.
And the guy does define service. I could bring me to my next point, actually, to Scott. In Elia, what have you seen in terms of service or experience that has led to a lot of your guys' success?
Yeah, we had a big shift in the industry post-COVID. So we think about, what do people want? How do we elevate? People are willing to spend more than ever to travel. But they're not traveling for that material luxury anymore. They're traveling for personalization, and they're traveling for unique experience. And personalization is no longer, hi, Mr. Smith, when you check in. No, we're fortunate in Marriott that we have powerful platforms that we can keep guest data, keep guest profiles, and start to build an understanding of what's important to people. Now, if I'm giving you all that information, I'm expecting you to use it, right? And one of the biggest challenges, certainly, we had training staff in Belize was that people were not used to being empowered to use information. So we had all these guest preferences and all these names, but you know what? I need to go ask my manager if I'm allowed to give you this thing that you told me you want. So our first thing was breaking that down, and say, go for it. You may not always get it right, but if you can create a special moment there and then, and your staff are doing that on the ground on a daily basis without even coming to you, then you've got a much higher chance that people are getting their expectations met. The other thing that strikes me about Belize is that we have this kind of amazing depth and breadth of things you can do. I mean, I've worked in many locations across the Caribbean. I can't think of anywhere that you can snorkel the barrier reef, dive the blue hole. Next day you're in an eco lodge in a jungle. Next day you're looking at a historic Mayan site, and all within, an hour and a half's travel. We need to lean into that, and we need to get that message out there. You can do all of this in this magical little country.
And take a Airstrom.
And take a helicopter.
And you take a helicopter to do it.
Well, we've gotten to know the country in a way that few people ever will, because we get to travel to very remote destinations. So the amount of sinkholes and waterfalls and just marine life and reef formations that I can show you if we were to be able to go on a all-day trip. But it's not only that. Belize provides a fantastic opportunity. I agree with what he was saying. In one day, you can go to the hills, to the reef, from diving to a pristine jungle. And on a helicopter, you have the advantage that you can be anywhere in country in 45 minutes to 55 minutes from Belize City.
Sure,
and there's few places in the world that you can do that.
And I can say every time I've gone a helicopter, I do feel like I'm going in through like Jurassic Park, like hearing the
Thank you.
anthem playing.
Some flights that we go out to, for example, to the
It's
Chiquibu
like you're
or
John
the Pine
Hammond.
Ridge, you have this vibe as you're going in because you see nothing but lush green forest.
It was pretty cool, Scott. I was really excited that you were on the panel and that Andreas was available. Andreas is with Merit International and manages new development projects. And you've been talking about like what you see in the luxury segment. You've seen a bunch of destinations. Where would be a benchmark that you say that if Belize could use something as an example?
Yes, thank you, Dustin. And by the way, more than happy to be here in Belize. Beautiful country. Every single time I arrive, I send a message to my buddies here. This is a great country, a lot of opportunities.
Actually, your best comment was that you landed just like, man, I love the blank canvas.
Yes, and this is basically a blank canvas in terms of hospitality investments. We see a lot of opportunities in the luxury space, probably more aligned to the entry luxury products. When I'm talking about entry luxury products, I'm thinking in brands like JW, Marriott, or something like Luxury Collection, which is part of our soft brand portfolio, or something like W. And you said something very interesting about a benchmark. I believe Belize is the only country in Central America with the characteristics of a Caribbean place. That's unique. That's special. So in terms of benchmark, probably destinations like, well, a lot of opportunities to develop something like Punta Mita in Mexico, that kind of things over here. Things like Papagayo in Costa Rica, you know, high-end luxury, but conscious-driven in terms of sustainability, in terms of how we impact in a positive way the communities that surround, you know, our hotels. I believe that those are good benchmarks for Belize future.
If I may add, you know, Belize also has a very unique situation because you can provide a luxury product that is very driven into the experience.
Exactly.
What that I mean is that pointing out to what we can do, we can, you know, we've done custom inflatable whitewater rafting trips inside the Sibun River. I mean, it's expensive, but we basically insert a team with inflatable kayaks and they can spend 3 to 5 days eating, sleeping inside the Sibun River.
But now,
and then we have extraction points in case of an emergency with a satellite phone. But it's a once in a lifetime experience.
That's a great comment.
We've set up with other outfits, you know, for example, Diving the Blue Hole, where we have the head of a Marine Biologist Association meet them out at the dive, so then they're their tour guide. And then when we go to the cave system, a custom experience, and then one more time, we have the head of a NGO, the director providing that value-added service that creates a very unique niche market that's very, very different.
It's like real nature connected with a luxury experience.
And at the end of the day, you can come back to a beautiful luxury resort to soak and enjoy a fantastic dinner.
Like Alaya, by the way. Part of our portfolio, just
You know what, okay, here's a question. I know we were the comment of infrastructure was a big thing for luxury, even at Adam Stewart's conversation. You know, we were always going over the who is Belize, but I look at it as, when you look at infrastructure, what is an amenity that you see at Alaya that gets people the wow factor? Like whatever, Alaya, I always look at it as the benchmark being like, okay, they're busy, so obviously something is going on. You guys have done a fantastic job. You really are the benchmark there. But I guess for you and Andres, what would be an amenity or infrastructure that you say would be like a fundamental for success in the luxury sector?
Absolutely, and I think people's biggest fear is that they'll travel somewhere and have this benign, soulless experience, right? They expect to have the great towels and the nice amenities and, you know, everything to look good and smell good. Some of the biggest successes we have are things that cost very, very little. You know, we do a sunrise breakfast where we take guests to our chicken coop, they harvest eggs, they come, sun's just coming over the horizon, they press fresh juice, and they're doing all the work. I have 2 staff doing it, 2 junior staff, but that's consistently the thing that pulls through. And why is because they can't do that everywhere. You know, they can't go do that in London or Paris, or they can't sit in the sand, see the sun come up, watch the palm tree and get that experience. So, you know, for properties in Belize, I think it's really leaning into how can I best use my asset to give people something they haven't seen before. And it doesn't have to be a material thing. You know, you can buy a bottle of Veuve Clicquot anywhere in the world. Okay, but you can't go and harvest eggs from a chicken coop and sit and watch the sunrise and cook your omelette and meet new people. So it's experience-led in the luxury sector for me.
Just similar ideas, because for hotels, it's always the investment of building us a heliport, which is a landing platform. Some of them is a pier in a remote island, but what we have learned to tell them is take the heliport and then provide a stargazing dinner. So that with candles, walk to the end of the pier. It's big enough because a helicopter can land there. Now
You're
you
a
set up
romantic
your
guy,
bottle
wow.
of champagne with your table, and now you have a one-of-a-kind experience.
The question is, so like landing at a hotel, and keeping curiosity, like, do you see seaplanes as a potential market in Belize?
It's a challenge because there's always the national security drug threat and how to monitor safe utilization of them. It's a possibility. I know a few people have tried that, but I wouldn't be able to say if it can or cannot be done. I know a lot of people always, it's the first thing they want to look at.
Yeah.
But it brings a lot of challenges. And from our point of view in aviation, a factor that a lot of people don't understand is corrosion.
Yeah.
The amount of money and time we have to spend in making sure the aircraft is to standards and it doesn't corrode is ungodly amount of time. An aircraft landing in the water exponentially, if not taken care of, can provide also an unsafe situation.
So yeah, so I was it was a conversation we're even flying. We're thinking over how cool of an experience it would be for luxury too, even in carrying capacity. It is remarkable. I think even Andreas, like at Marriott, just so people understand, like you guys got a lot of different brands. You have things from luxury to, you mentioned premium luxury, entry luxury. What's the difference from something like a Ritz-Carlton? Who here knows the name Ritz-Carlton? Okay, who also knows just Marriott? Looking for luxury, you're going to go to Marriott or you're going to go to Ritz-Carlton? So you've got a lot of people here Ritz, but which one in your mind is the highest luxury of all of Marriott's brands? And yeah, I guess give a comment on it as you have a lot of difference.
Yes, I have a comment on your previous question that I believe is very important for this discussion. When we try to have a luxury segment in a country, we need certain minimum infrastructure. So as an example, I mean, if you want to have a Ritz-Carlton or a St. Regis hotel or Bulgari hotel or whatever luxury brand do you want to have, you need improvements in things like airport facilities, roads, because luxury, it's all about service. If you want to have a high-end luxury product, you need a lot of different services. And that brings a lot of opportunities to the community, to the local business, because they can, provide different segments with more value added through their activities. But going back to the original question, yes, we have more than 35 brands on our portfolio. We have 9 brands on the luxury space, and we classify those brands as entry luxury and high-end luxury. In a country like Belize, as I said, we believe there is a couple of opportunities for luxury entry luxury products here, like a JW or a W, something like that.
And then how many keys or rooms would be needed for, I guess, different segments?
It depends, but it depends of the feasibility of each project. But we're thinking something in between 100 to 150 keys, something like that for a luxury product, to have a unique experience. You don't want to have a lot of people in a luxury product. You want to keep it, personal. You want to keep it small with certain scale.
And then, actually, stuff I get, Emilio, you have one of the best service guys in history. I actually do got to give a round of applause to your trading and there, and you've dealt with a lot of high-end clientele. And what would you feel like would be some of the best advice you could give on managing expectations of luxury clientele or people that are looking at any sector that is dealing with luxury clientele?
Well, luxury clientele is different.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say they're difficult. They just expect service. They don't mind paying for it, but you have to deliver. So if you're going to call yourself a luxury product, you have to be able to deliver the service that you're charging. And if there's any concerns when the service is not delivered, you have to learn to understand and find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you can find a way to solve a problem, they will understand and be okay with it. But you have to be able to step up to either recognizing that something was wrong or having an alternative that will be similar to what you couldn't deliver.
It's the
And I don't know if you guys agree with that because you have some of the
totally.
same clients.
100%.
And we actually fly, not a lot, but some to Alaya. And
Yeah, and one of the, I mean, certainly during my time at Alaya, one of the challenges we had is we could sell the entry level product all day. You know, the standard bedroom would sell no problem, just open it up and go. But convincing someone to spend 4 figures a night for like a 3-bedroom beachfront villa, that's not a mass market exercise. You know, these people are not going online and booking their own rooms. They're using luxury travel agents. They're using luxury consortia.
Yeah.
So then you're having to market to a very, very specific clientele and a very, very specific booker. And these people can afford to stay wherever they want, anywhere in the world. You're paying $1,000 plus a night, you can choose. So to reassure them to come to Belize and that everything's going to be okay, you need to build that marketing pack to tick all their boxes. You know, will I have exclusivity? Is it secure? Will it be seamless? Can I get anything I want any time of the day? And it's that part of marketing that where you really, you know, earn your stripes. Because you're not selling the same products to the same people all year round. And you need to be very conscious of what your property is, what that means to people, and how you can nudge that over the line. Yeah, beautiful pictures are not always just going to do it. So you need to be thoughtful in how you spend those marketing dollars.
Yeah. I guess like when we're here, because Alaya did a lot of the pioneering with one of the first ones to do a branded resort in Belize. What impact having that brand affiliation with Marriott here? You don't have to worry. You don't have to offend them too much. They could tell them it's, oh, we would know. But like, what impact has that had on your business, whether it be service, marketing, bookings?
Yeah, it's huge, you know, because it gives you like an international standard. People say, okay, I know this brand. I've stayed in one in X country, Y country, Z country, and I know I'm going to have a minimum threshold that's met. You also receive clients with much higher expectations because they are traveling day in, day out, you know, your loyal Bonvoy guests. So they're expecting a minimum that you may not have to push elsewhere.
well, I'm one of them because I'm a lifetime titanium.
There you go.
I actually only stay married. He got me.
And anywhere I go, you're right. There's the expectation of if the flag is this, I expect the service to be delivered.
Yeah, certain
that's why
minimum
you pick
standards.
100%.
I haven't booked Airbnb since college. Everything I look at brand, it's like, okay, do you know what? I'm not staying with a bunch of friends. I want something that I know is going to be decent. It's going to be clean. So
Yeah, but equally, you know, if you're looking at, you know, a project that's smaller, maybe you can't quite take a flag on or elsewhere. There's learnings there. You know, what's important to these guests? Like I said before, it's authenticity, it's personalization, it's anticipatory service. Now, just because you don't have an automatic system that collects guest data, nothing to stop you to send a little email, tell us why you're staying, tell us your kid's name, and you can use all that information to build those little touch points that you would expect in a premium brand. Yes, there's an extra step involved, and you know there's a little bit extra work, but data's king.
but it's everything.
Yeah, and know the more you know about your guests, and the more you use that, it turns, you know, basic service into an experience, and that's what people are looking for.
It's also been like, it's awesome seeing Four Seasons come along, Six Senses come along. But for the people that are looking at entering the luxury space and new opportunities in it, where do you guys see luxury travelers coming from? Like, you see when people arrive, you see when they stay, and you see in the region, where are the luxury travelers coming from?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, in terms of distribution, we receive most of these clients from the U.S. So connectivity between Latin American countries and the US is key, to attract this kind of guests. There is a very important component from Canada, also Europe, but let's say 80% comes from the US.
Any particular city or state?
I mean, New York, New Yorkers, Boston, Atlanta, Florida, Texas,
Yeah.
California.
Yeah. One odd pattern we noticed this year, particularly after an election year and such a contentious election, let's say in the US, is that our guests had to be reassured that they were welcome. And I know that sounds so odd, but we went through this exercise where we saw travel dip and we said why, and a lot of guests were worried about kind of external perception. Now, Alaya, 92% of our beds are used by US guests. That's where our airlift is, and that's the market that can afford it. So we had to go through this kind of marketing exercise to say, we still love you, we're still open, come here, everyone's relaxed, you're going to be welcomed, but being sensitive to the geopolitical climate in your source market is very, very key for a luxury traveller. They don't want to come and feel like they're going to be looked down on or ostracised in any way. So it's always nice to keep a close eye on what's happening in your source markets.
Is it any particular state that you say is your best clientele?
Yeah, I mean, our best is Atlanta,
Atlanta?
so Georgia, and then followed by New York. But it's where the airlift is. Hospitality lives and dies by airlift. I could have the best marketing campaign ever devised in Europe. No one's coming. It's complicated to get here.
Yeah, sure. And you see it every day. If you had the best client, where are they from?
For us, the demographic of the city is not as important as our best clients tend to be families or people that have an expectation of the service because they either have a private plane or C-level type of executive on a vacation, because time is of essence. So you need to be able to maximize the time that they're spending on their vacation because they count their life in minutes.
We actually were talking about this. We actually couldn't figure out which was a better market and how you happen to both. Was driving up here was for luxury travel. Is it the families or is it the young couples? Which one is like one that if there was one if you target? Because I've even noticed at it when you have a family pool versus not that it's.
You need both markets.
Okay.
You need both markets. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree, and it changes based upon economic conditions. There was some years ago before COVID, we could park a helicopter here, and people would walk up and book it on the spot, and then would go out, get the girlfriend, wife, and say, we're going on a helicopter. After COVID, disposable income changed, and then you had all the people that were not traveling that have disposable wealth just say life is too short. I'm not going to keep on working so hard, and you will agree with this. So there was a massive change in financial demographic of people traveling. So more money, less volume. And probably that will change as the economy of the world transitions into one where people have more disposable income that then can splurge on a luxury market. And it's good to see that you agree with the same trend that probably you're seeing in your own hotels.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I think we have 5 minutes left. This has actually flown by really quick.
Well, I can add something very interesting because I heard a common theme not only on this panel but others, which is luxury market needs certain things in order to keep on growing. And in a lot of the panels, you have heard the same, let's say, direction, which is Belize has already seen where they want to go and they're making the changes necessary. But in order to keep on growing, those changes need to come to a finalization so it allows the market to continue to grow organically. But some of it can't happen when you have change or you have certain infrastructure changes, and the common theme is make it simple, make it fast, make it efficient, and that is very truthful. From labor, from permits, from aviation authorities having to then come forward with technology changes and so forth, and all sorts of different support components that you guys also have to deal with.
Yeah.
If there was like one incentive that Belize could have to attract luxury investors, luxury development, luxury projects, what do you guys think it would be?
That's a great question. Probably the right answer is you need to, you need, Belize needs to be able to compete with another countries. So you need to see what Costa Rica is doing, you need to see what El Salvador is doing, you need to understand what is doing Mexico, what is doing some countries on the Caribbean to understand how we can provide, you know, this kind of incentives, this kind of facilities, you know, to bring more business.
Yeah, and it starts from before you arrive in the country, you know, and all the way through the smile at the airport, the AC in the terminal, is the road smooth, the condition of the taxis.
The lines.
Yeah.
You know, every part, if you're talking true luxury experience, you know, and I can tell you from a hotelier's point of view, if someone has a terrible experience, a long line at the airport, the taxi driver didn't show up, the road was closed, they arrive to me pissed off already, and I need to start way back to get them to base zero to then start the experience. You know, if I get someone who went straight through and everything was smooth and they come with that big smile on their face, you know, it makes your job easier.
Yeah.
And it's not the solution, but I'll tell you a story. We have American Airlines comes late, right? So you have a couple that goes by helicopter, one that doesn't come. Bags don't arrive to country. Both are pissed. The one that go by helicopter land with a smile on their face and forget about their bags. The ones that arrive by other methods are at your hotel speaking every single thing that's wrong because their state of mind shift drastically.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how changing the mindset of the traveler changes the experience 100%. And it's the same person with the same situation, but one thing made it acceptable, the other didn't. And it's not only about the helicopter. It's about the experience can change the outcome from that one day through the next 7 because they're still caught up on what happened on day 1.
I could even say, like we were talking about a few luxury examples. Kenai is pretty close by. Would you have the St. Regis in the addition? But it's like, it's amazing when you go through something and it just everything's seamless. Everything could be going wrong, but they still make it seamless. It is something that's quite impressive in when you look at the luxury segment.
Yeah, it's service. Again, same as you said. Luxury is all about service.
So what would be the best service advice you guys could give to any business, any person looking not just at the luxury space? If there's one comment on service and one remark on it, what would it be?
But for me, a lot of people get worried about tech, and what the last panel was talking about AI. How do I integrate it? When do I integrate it? When does it help? For me, it's use technology where it makes things quicker, but leave that human connection for like meaningful interaction. People don't want to be checked in by a machine, but they want everything to be nice and quick so I can get straight to you, look at your smile, and start to plan all the things that are special to me. Because you're giving me my passport, my credit card, and all that nonsense. That's not important to me, right? What's important is recommendation, suggestion, getting that local vibe and that local flair. So use your tech to make all the boring stuff seamless, and then focus on the real personal connection for the meaningful stuff.
Yeah, but you even commented that the human experience, you have a very, I've seen everything in all your guys' sector of a very human experience. So that's actually an awesome point. So, and Belize does have like the friendliest people you'll ever meet. It's actually unbelievable. You're on a golf cart, everybody stops to say hi, pull over, and wave. And so I see that there's 17 seconds left. I want to thank everybody so much. I've been looking at these numbers. I'm like, it took me a second to realize what it was. It's the countdown. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you, guys. This was awesome. A lot of great feedback. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Beltrade. Thank you, everybody. Fiona, it's the end now. Hopefully we could grab a cocktail. Nikki, we still owe me one. And thank you so much.
Thank you to Dustin's shoes. Do you guys see that? What is that? Leather and the socks. Can we please give them another round of applause? We are indeed winding down. We're not totally there yet. The conversations are still happening. We do have 2 very interesting panels coming up. These are focused on the financial industry itself. Before we get into those, I do want to invite Deanne Chan to just talk to us about her business while we prepare for the next set of panelists. 3. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I see you that like you're a bit like tired, boring, but I am here today to call your attention and present you my business. I am the proud owner of Botanical Garden by Roslyn, located at Corozal, representing North. Why not North? All the industries are down south, owned by foreigners. And I am here today to tell you about my business and services, not only about investments, but services, because that is the key for success. Belize, did you know that Belize has the perfect climate to grow plants? And most of them are 80%, more than 80% are imported. And Botanical Garden by Roslyn is here to change that. The vision is to create and build the largest nursery in Belize. And we want to export international through strategic marketing, because we own a large market. We import and we supply countrywide woman-led businesses. It's not only about businesses, but we are creating opportunities, inspiring young entrepreneurs, schools, strengthening connection with farmers, growing fruit trees. It's not only about beautification, landscaping, but we are strengthening agriculture. We grow herbs, natural herbs, locally herbs, fruit trees, and we are here to offer not only plants, but food, locally grown food. And if you don't want only to buy plants, we are here to offer our services. For example, for the large hotels, we want to partner with you guys. I want to grow together with you. I want to let Botanical Garden by Roslyn from Corozal shine, not only in Belize, but internationally. It's a pleasure being here today with you. Thank you for your attention, because I did cut your attention while having those snacks. And it's almost the end of this event, but it's my first year being here, and I am going very happy with a lot of knowledge. I did create a large networking being here for only 2 days, and it's a great experience because it's my first time. I have been growing through Beltrade. Please, can you give a hand of applause for my trainers, my advisors, my past teachers, and my family. Thanks to that, I haven't given up, and I'm aiming for more. I don't accept a no, and I will represent North. I won't move from Corozal and Orangewood. And thanks to those networking, I am growing. It's not only about money, because many people think business and money. No, Opportunities are once and never give up. I say no is it's one step for another opportunity. And I have been through international leaderships programs. I have been through losses. But I am here proudly standing and representing my business that's starting from an imaginary capital investment. Botanical Garden by Rosalind wants to grow together with you.
And she is also a recipient for funding, so it does work. And yes, she does not take no because the thing said time's up, but she kept going, right? But very good presentation. And now we move on to the Banking on Belize panel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Belize Investment Summit 2025 stage, Karim Michael, Governor of Central Bank of Belize; Reynaldo Magana, Chairman of Finance, Belize; Filippo Alario, Chairman and CEO of Belize Bank Limited and President of Belize Bankers Association.
Can we please give these fine gentlemen a round of applause? And reminder, we are live streaming right now. Welcome to the stage.
So I think I will have to take the lead here for this fireside chat. I think we have already established the fine company I'm with, and so we'll try to get right into it. It's an interesting mix because as a regulator, I'm joined with the president of the Bankers Association, and I'm also joined by Mr. Reynaldo Magana, who's running what I think is a very creative subsidiary of the Financial Services Commission, which is Finance Belize. And its mission or its vision is really to promote the banking space here in Belize. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And let's get straight to the questions. I'll start off with Mr. Magana. Tell us, from your perspective, how does financial stability and regulatory compliance support sustainable economic growth in Belize?
Thank you, Governor. It's a pleasure to be here today, to be in front of you all. Just to say, I'm the chairman of Finance Belize, the marketing and promotion arm for financial services sector in Belize. Anyway, Governor, thanks for the question. Financial stability is when it builds investor and consumer confidence in a financial market. What it does is that when you have a stable bank, a stable credit union, or stable financial institutions, it reassures depositors that their investments and savings are safe. That's one thing. It reduces the risk of capital flight. And also, as we all know, we had correspondent banking issues a few years ago. So what financial stability is doing for us now is improving that sort of relationships we have with correspondent banks, which will help us to be included within the global financial networks. Also, the confidence in financial stability also translates to greater domestic savings and investments. So what that does is that it increases a bank's strength and it enables access to capital to various persons within the market. Regulatory compliance also attracts foreign direct investment, and it also increases access to capital. As we may all know, Belize over the years has done a lot to be compliant with, for example, mandates from the EU, OECD, FATF, and also some of the IMF standards. Investors look at these things before they decide to make investments or before releasing any capital or committing any capital. So by Belize being able to demonstrate globally that it's off any blacklist, off any FATF blacklist, it tells a story that yes, Belize has done, has made great effort to get off these blacklists and be transparent and be compliant to the world. So finally, stability and compliance also lowers systemic risk. For example, Belize has a stable exchange rate, it has a sound fiscal policy, and it has adequate reserves within the banking system. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ray.
Now, I have a question for Mr. Alario. In what ways do robust banking and financial systems attract domestic and international investment?
Well, thank you. Thank you for, first of all, Governor, for inviting me. I am nervous, and I'm in front of my regulator, so I need to be P's and Q's, sure that I don't say anything that I'll regret the future examinations. You know, we are an investment summit here, and investors usually follow returns. Investors follow opportunity. But most importantly, investors follow confidence. The confidence that their assumptions when they make business plans and they invest are solid, that they don't have to worry about shocks that are sort of black swan events. You know, they like to see a stable financial sector. They like to see a well-regulated financial sector. They like to see banks and credit unions and capital markets that provide capital for whatever is the endeavors that they're investing in. And they want to make sure that they can take those returns back if they have to. I think that this panel is a very well put together panel in the sense that you have, with me representing the banks, you have the regulator who sets the rails, sets the highway, if you will, sets the playbook, and then we execute as capital providers, and Mr. Magana is the one that tells a beautiful story to all the investors. He goes all over the world and he tells everybody how amazing we are. Belize has an amazing, has a good banking sector. We've came a long way. We came from the days where the whole market was extremely undercapitalized. All banks now have good capital, lot of liquidity in the market. So we put that behind us, and now we are ready to make sure that we can deliver to local investors and foreign investors alike. So customer centricity is extremely important for us at this point.
Thank you.
I have a question for the governor. Governor, how does the regulatory environment provide investors with confidence?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Alario. I've done this panel before, and I've spent a lot of time talking about the exchange rate and how important that is in anchoring investment opportunity. The very nature of stability it provides fosters that environment which an investor looks at. So our mandate at the central bank, we'd call it a twin mandate. We advance, we promote monetary and financial system stability. Before we get into the technical aspects of it at a high level, it's important to underscore that even in the execution of what may seem far away or even complex concepts to a lot of people is that a precursor to monetary and financial system stability is having the resources available within the central bank to execute what is essentially a tall mandate. And this is finance, and these are human resources and the like. The central bank's weaponry is really from its legislation and also from its capital position. Everything really is built around that. So when we look at monetary stability, we have maintained the currency peg at 2-to-1 for over 4 decades. Think about how small, think about that achievement from a small open economy that heavily imports a lot of what goes into our economy. It is quite an achievement. And for a small nation like us to maintain that for over 4 decades, it's quite noteworthy. And you can just look at some of the challenges that other countries within our region has had in just maintaining some sort of ban or exchange rate regime. So that is a key condition that investors look at. And this is something that the central bank prides itself on and religiously, fanatically tries to defend. And I'll say something a little bit controversial here. That may change in the next 30, 40 years. You never know. The situation currently exists where this is the best route for Belize, which is maintaining that 2-to-1 exchange rate. So beyond that, when we look at financial stability, Mr. Alara spoke about how well capitalized the banking system is. So in our language, we try to look at a capital position that is 9%. That's a benchmark. Right now, the banking system is well capitalized at 17.8%. That means it can cushion itself against weaknesses on its balance sheet. So when loans go bad, this is where the losses are absorbed by this capital position. So again, another check for Belize. Aside from that, we look at how the wheels are greased, how these faucets are turned on. Are credit conditions conducive for economic growth? Is there liquidity in the system? And we all know there's too much. There's quite a bit waiting to be deployed for viable projects. Again, this should sound good and pretty attractive to investors. And how we wrap ourselves around financial stability or a resilient financial sector, how the central bank approaches. It has an entire team dedicated to focusing on where fires may occur and where the big fires may occur. And that's a risk-based approach. So we look at the major players within the industry and we go through our own methodology, our own playbook, and then we say, such and such a bank, we see that you have weaknesses or overexposures here, and we need to address it. So we look at it from that standpoint. We try, given limited resources, to put our effort where they're needed the most. And, of course, we adopt international standards such as the Basel framework. Again, kind of technical, but it prescribes what should be minimum levels of capital and what sort of capital, the quality of capital that a bank should include, as well as other guidelines, such as on credit, market risk, and operational risk. And then we're starting to introduce a big one, which is technology risk. And that's how that's the rigor of the central bank that happens behind the scenes. One of the things that I like to say is that none of this matters to most people in the audience. The true currency of the central bank is trust. Whether or not you can confidently say that your money is safe in the bank, that you have access to it, and that payments channels are open for you. You don't need to know how it's done. You just need to know that there's an institution that has that mandate and it's doing it well. Thank you, Governor.
Governor, thank you. Thank you for explaining that capital is the cushion to shocks. There is sometimes a misconception that investors, people who are interested in how the banks are liquid, feel that liquidity is the cushion to shocks, and that is not the case. Yes, we have a lot of liquidity, but we have a large responsibility to those depositors. Liquidity is not sort of like a piñata ready to break and hit it and get the liquidity. And I just want to say that the moment, you know this as a regulator, the moment a bank lends based on its liquidity is the moment that you need to start worrying, because liquidity has nothing to do with risk appetite. So yes, we have a lot of liquidity. There might be some structural deficiencies that a small market has. There's nothing we can do about that. That is very common in small island states. That's where we are. But we just need to be careful how we look at this liquidity, right? So the other point you make, Governor, is the issue of technology. And many years ago, when I started banking and we had to rank the risks that banks have, usually credit risk was the first one. Today, our enterprise risk management framework shows credit risk to be probably 5, 6, 7. Number one is technology, third-party providers, cybersecurity, and everything that is encompassed within sort of an operational risk. So things are changing, and they're moving at an incredible space. I see the panel before talked about AI. AI is going to make a huge impact in the way that we deliver services, loans. Is going to change the way that clients expect to be serviced. And I don't think we have enough time, but that is a whole day talk about what is coming in terms of technologies for the financial sector.
I'm glad you touched on that, Mr. Alario. And just to add a little bit more, so there's a backbone platform, which is our automated payments and settlement security system that was launched, I believe, in 2017, which really started to introduce technology into the payments landscape. So a lot of your instant fund transfers, your electronic funds transfer, just operating within the online space and away from not away, I have to be careful how I say that, less reliance on cash and also checks. And what the central bank is doing, and we're also going to partner with the Belize Bankers Association, is now to improve on that. It's going to be another heavy investment on now what we dub fast payments. So right now, even if you, and I think this is very important for businesses, just how you move money for operational purposes, how quickly a transaction can be executed. We still have some lags there. It's not instantaneous. So with this project, we're building true connectivity, true interoperability between the major or among the major players within the system. So now you're from a point of initiation in a transaction to completion, we're aiming for 5 seconds. That's what we're hoping for. And of course, when you travel and go to more advanced jurisdictions, you have aliases or QR codes. So essentially, you want to convert your phone now into your debit or credit card. That's what you're looking at. So this is the next step that we're making, and I would like to commend the Bankers Association for also moving in that direction along with the central bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We're fully committed to enhancing those payment rails. As you know, the organization that I represent, we just made a very large investment in moving our core to the cloud. We are the first full-service bank in the Caribbean and could be in Central America that has a cloud-native core banking system. And this is something transformational. I've already started to get calls to see how is it that it was done. Very painful. It took 2 years. It's sort of like doing heart surgery, running a marathon, because you have to do everything on production. But we are extremely proud of what this could bring for the future. So we're very happy that the central bank are preparing those highways for us to run.
Thank you, Mr. Alario. Just in the interest of time, I think you guys answered all the questions that were here. But anyway, I'll just stick to this. I think question for the governor. What are the central bank's key priorities for keeping Belize's financial system stable in the face of global uncertainties? You might have mentioned a couple.
Yeah, this is a tricky one and a quite difficult question to answer. Simply because there's so much uncertainty globally, and again, the transmission channels for a small open economy are numerous and wide. So shocks are not only big in size, but are felt on our shores quite quickly. And you don't have to look further than COVID, when we had a steep, sharp contraction of around 15%, maybe even 16%. And then even before that, if you look to the global financial crisis, what the magnitude of the impact it had on Belize through these channels. However, even within this uncertain global environment, what the central bank does, and it's one of its key mandate, is offers policy advice to the government. Because really and truly, our ability to react and respond to shocks surrounds or comes around from the fiscal space, right? How government intervenes with certain policies to help to recover the economy. And so the central bank, with its team, studies the nature of the shocks, provides advice to government, and then coordinates what that policy response should look like. When Liberation Day tariffs were announced, all of us gathered at the central bank, and we tried our best to look at the extent of what the shock would have been and how we could have had a coordinated response. So that's very important. Our ability to diagnose shocks, determine what the transmission channels would be, and then coordinate what that policy response would be with the government. Apart from that, our mandate again is clear. What we can do within the Central Bank Act is clear. If those shocks ever reach our shore, we have this bazooka, if you will, this lender of last resort function, where we can jump in and save one of our systemic institutions if need be, or we can do other things on a macro-prudential side. And big red sign, thumbs up. All right.
Thank you, Governor. I think we have one more question. Is it time's up?
Is it time's up?
You didn't give me a chance to...
Bring it, yeah, do it. I don't know what you have the...
You then.
Please ask me.
So you heard the president, and you heard myself giving you all the highlights of how great of a system this is and why you should bank on Belize. Tell us how you're going to market us.
Thank you, Governor.
Excellent question.
Thank you, Filippo. I knew you guys would take up most of the time, but anyway. I'd just like to say that, just stemming off from my first question about financial stability and regulatory compliance. I mean, another key thing that does is to enable diversification of the economy, and that's where I would segue into the things that we're doing at Finance Belize. I mean, Finance Belize is the marketing and promotion arm for the financial services sector in Belize. We are akin to what PTB does for tourism, Finance Belize does to financial services. And I think one of the key things that we are doing is to build the reputation of Belize, is to build Belize as a highly respected jurisdiction. And hearing from you and also what Filippo has done, those things only strengthen our visibility. It helps investors from outside look at us and say, yeah, you guys are being compliant. You're being transparent. You have strong regulatory framework such as the central bank. We have the Financial Services Commission as well doing an excellent job in regulating the non-bank financial services area. So those are things that do help our perception. And what Finance Belize is it's in its early stages, but we are already have boots on the ground working. For example, for this summit, we do have a CEO and other staff involved, but they are in Mexico City promoting Belize at the STEP LATAM conference. And so I had to take this opportunity to come here and represent Finance Belize. So we're doing two things this week to help promote Belize. And I think one of our end goal is to make Belize, respected. Yeah, we want to be the jurisdiction of choice. We want people to say, yeah, we have all these things in place. Let's do it. We can depend on Belize. We could put investments there, and it can be safe. So that's the key thing I like to say and close off with. Thank you.
I think we are.
Yeah. Time's up.
I think that was a very good question to ask at the end, right? That's the perfect way to end this. Can we please give them another round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, these type of conversations can go on, but be here for Belize Investment Summit 2027. And we have our final discussion of the summit, actually. And this one is a panel discussion on unlocking venture capital in the Caribbean, which I believe is very, very important, especially for our small businesses. On this panel, we have Mr. Simon Johnson. He is a private finance senior specialist and venture capital investment of the venture capital investment unit of IDB Lab. And we also have, and I hope I have your name correctly, Anela Bartosoli, who is the Impact and Investment Readiness Lead at Alterna. If it's not close, you let me know. This panel will be moderated by Mr. Derek Conarchy, who is the Project Coordinator, Institute of Banking and Finance for the University of Belize. So give them a minute, and then we welcome them to the stage. Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to say thank you all for being here for 3 days of the Belize Investment Summit 2025. We appreciate every single person, whether locally or internationally, that has come to Belize's shores and visited us for this investment summit. We hope that you're able to make the connections that you need. And of course, if it doesn't happen within the last 3 days, please collect enough business cards so that they can happen for the rest of the year. So, John? I also want to take this time to give a final thank you to our sponsors for the Belize Investment Summit 2025, our diamond sponsor IDB, our platinum sponsor Key Chapel, our gold sponsors FSC Belize, the European Union, Central Bank of Belize, DFC, CDF, the Embassy of the Republic of China, Taiwan, Bowen & Bowen, PAC, BTB, Nando's Wholesale, Digi, and Belize. Our silver sponsors, the Belize Airports Authority, Maya Island Air, Smart, Santander Group, Atlantic Bank, Belize Bank, National Bank, Belize Foam Limited, and our brand sponsors, Caribbean Chicken, Finance Belize, Cementos Progreso, Vince Liquors, Honey Coast Energy, Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, St. Francis Xavier Credit Union, Corozal Free Zone, the Belize Water Services Limited, and Heritage Bank of Belize. Welcome to the stage, our next panelists. Can we please give them some attention? Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Don't worry, our session promises to be very short. As mentioned earlier, we are here with Ms. Aniela from Alterna, hope I pronounced it correctly, and Mr. Simon from Idea Lab. Two remarkable professionals who will help us get a very clear idea on financing. We have Ms. Aniela, who is more debt finance focused, and Mr. Simon, who is focused on equity financing, specifically venture capital. All right. So let's first start off with an understanding of where debt financing is at the moment, especially as it relates to your aspects, Ms. Aniela.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation and good afternoon. I would like to briefly explain Guatemala experience. I work in Alterna. Alterna is a social impact platform from Guatemala. We work to close gaps that limit entrepreneur access to capital. We support them by building financial statements, cash flows. We support them, by providing continuous support and follow-up. In parallel, our ecosystem is on this way to being ready for venture capital. But you know that equity requires a level of maturity that a lot of early-stage business are still building. That's why what has worked for us is flexible debt. For example, we work with two investment funds, Acceso and Devela. They provide loans linked to sales cycles and seasonality to the entrepreneurs. This is much more realistic for entrepreneurs for tourism, agriculture, or a small business that face variable revenues. We also believe that capital alone is not enough. That's why we run acceleration programs. We realize that entrepreneurs need continuous support to achieve their goals. For example, sometimes they think that they are ready to receive capital or investment, but the truth is that with the right support, they will be truly prepared. Regarding to the academy, academy should form professionals with critical thinking, with innovation capacities, the ability to turn ideas into viable business models. But at least in Guatemala, universities are still in the process of assuming this role. That represents an opportunity for platforms as ours, for public sector, for private sector. It is an opportunity and a gap too, no? And finally, I would like to mention some lessons, some learnings. Take it step by steps. Maybe start with flexible debt is more realistic for entrepreneurs. Invest in acceleration and investment readiness programs. I already said they need the support. And strong partnerships could open the door to equity in the future. And last but not least, we strongly believe that Belize has opportunity to design a models that fit this context. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Aniela. So let's pass it over to Mr. Simon. Tell us more on the venture capital side. How does this act as a cushion to the challenges that Ms. Aniela provided to us?
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just use a minute or two kind of to explain what the Inter-American Development Bank does, the IDB. So we have three main funding mechanisms in which we provide support. The first major one is one that most people will be familiar with. We support governments in terms of debt. The second is as it pertains to private sector. That's IDB Invest, that provides support to private sector institutions. But we tend to say corporations because they tend to provide financing to larger corporations, debt or equity. And then I'm with IDB Lab. IDB Lab specifically focuses on a gap that we realized was missing a few decades ago. We particularly focus on funding for innovation. So we call ourselves the innovation laboratory for the IDB. So we provide non-reimbursable funding grants. We provide reimbursable funding, debt or equity. And the broad range is from about 250,000 US to up to 5 million US. First debt versus equity. As it pertains to venture capital is extremely critical in any ecosystem. And we've realized that ecosystems, or let's move it to countries that perform the best, that have high levels of productivity, tend to have relatively robust innovation ecosystems. Those are ecosystems that help to nurture ideas to actual on paper, then to actual steps to start the business through a process where the business can grow and scale and employ and add value back to the country. So venture capital is effectively a part of private equity that focuses primarily on early stage companies. Now, how does this help Belize and countries? So I'm Jamaican, if you didn't hear the accent. So countries like us, small island development states, I don't know why they call Belize that. It's not an island, but let's go with it. States, right? So
I think the description we used was small open economy.
Small open economies. So it's important for us because for most of the countries in the Caribbean, if you realize, from an independence perspective, tend to be less than 100 years old, relatively young democracy. Now, for many decades, investment and innovation really was done in traditional sectors. So if you go across all of the Caribbean, excluding the ones that focus primarily on oil and gas, you'll see that the largest industries are in finance, so banking, traditional banking, they're in real estate, or they're in manufacturing, distribution, if the cost of electricity is relatively low. So the amount of investment that we've traditionally put into innovation and tech and productivity, so not just productive sectors, but focusing on productivity, has been relatively low. So at the IDB Lab, what we try to do is to engender increased investments in that by helping to support organizations such as Alterna. We work indirectly through organizations such as Alterna and Accesso as well. But we also support businesses directly, MSMEs, that are looking to have impact. Now, based on where Belize is and my understanding, and I'm still learning, about the country itself, is that you believe that you're at a crossroad. Now, you can see the potential in Belize. Belize sits between, how I put it, Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Very well suited to take advantage of that unique, not just geographic position, but economic position and relationship that you already have with Central America. You already have it in the north with Mexico, and you definitely have it with the Caribbean as well. What pushing more capital into venture capital does is, one, it allows new types of innovations to come up. Why isn't there Uber from Belize? Why do we think there can't be a large fintech, coming from Belize as well? The ideas are here. So what we're trying to do is connect smart capital, patient capital, with ideas that we know are already here.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Simon. Ms. Aniela mentioned something very important. She touched on the areas of academia. And here in Belize, we have the Institute of Banking and Finance. And the focus has been primarily on anti-money laundering. And thereafter, we have cybersecurity, a word that has been a buzzword for the entirety of this session. And we have fraud risk management, but also that main focus on risk management. Mr. Simon, capital doesn't flow where there's no trust. And in terms of regulatory compliance, tell us how important that is as it relates to the attraction in terms of venture capital.
It's excellent that the governor of the central bank was just here, because that's exactly what he spoke on, about financial stability. Think about it this way. If you were to want to invest as a Belizean in country Y, you've never been to country Y, you have capital to invest, you are more likely to invest in that company in that country, or companies in that country, if you believe that, one, you can get your capital to actually get to the country and to the company that you need, that the company within the country can grow. If something goes wrong, you can use legal systems to get back your capital, and eventually, hopefully, when you're ready to exit, you can exit safely and take your capital at value back to your country. So financial stability is important, because in the country, when we're inside our own countries, we understand the system better. It's kind of a home bias. You're much more comfortable investing in Belize. I'm much more comfortable investing in Jamaica. So how I see it is getting to the point where overseas investors are more comfortable investing in the country, and they will become more comfortable once they can trust the system. And business really moves at the speed of trust. All right, so I'll say that.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Simon. Ms. Aniela, can you walk us through how you believe Belize is uniquely positioned between Guatemala in terms of our partnership opportunities?
I didn't expect it. Okay, maybe I could mention Wakami. Wakami is a small company in Guatemala. They work with rural women, artisans. We empower them to transfer from artisans to entrepreneurs. They craft handmade bracelets, and with training, with access to market, with mentorship, they are now selling their products all over the world. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to support there, so the IDB, we covered 26 countries, across the region, Latin America and the Caribbean. So we've certainly have business in Guatemala, Honduras, as well. And how do I put this? So everyone has used a pack of cards before, right? Everyone has used a pack of cards. If you try to fold a single card, what happens? Folds. Pretty easy, right? I wish I had just brought the pack of cards. I couldn't find any to buy. Sorry. So if you put 5 of those cards together and you bend it, it's a little harder, but it still bends. If you use the entire pack and try to bend it, what do you think will happen? It's going to be very hard to bend. So how I see the Caribbean is I see the Caribbean as a continent in itself. We are stronger together as a region. We are, if you use the same example, harder to bend when we're all together. So I think, I definitely believe in regional focus, particularly because venture capital, so Belize population-wise is very small. Jamaica is very, well, a little larger, but also very small. Trinidad, etc. Individually, we're all small. What small businesses need to scale outside of Belize City, outside of San Pedro, outside of Belize, Jamaica, etc., is scale. When you are trying to grow these types of businesses within country, it becomes much harder to scale and you reach a natural limit. So you have to start looking abroad. If we can, build more regional scale or opportunities to scale, then that gets better. I'd mentioned exit as well. So any equity investor that goes into an investment will want to understand how they're going to exit. So if you're an entrepreneur, that's one of the first questions that an investor or that we would ask, how are we going to exit this investment in the future? The thing is, even within the Caribbean, the Jamaica Stock Exchange is one of the most active markets, not just within the Caribbean, but within the entire Latin American space. The Jamaican Stock Exchange was actually the top performing stock exchange in the world for about 3 years, a few years ago prior to COVID. So the level of activity there is very strong. This can help to create a means not just to support stock exchanges across the region, create avenues to exit, but to create a means for companies from Belize that want to have that capital exit to be able to exit or list in Jamaica, as well. As it pertains to Guatemala, just to touch back on your original question, I think I've been having this thought. Belize, looking on the map, Belize sits between Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. It's very tied into those three. I was going to call Mexico a region, but it's $1.9 trillion, so it's its own region, those three regions. If, for example, we could think about how Belize can position itself as a single incorporation for venture capital investors that allows venture capital funds, fund managers access to both Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. And Belize specifically in the Caribbean is unique to that because you alone would have that type of relationship with all three players in the market.
All right. We have one final question. As I mentioned, we'll keep it short and sweet. And this question is primarily for Mr. Simon. Mention you've been interacting with 26 countries, but I want you to be biased to Belize for this question. So as it relates to the general setup, we have the entrepreneurs, the investors, policymakers, and different institutions. Where would you say a focus can be placed in terms of opportunities and areas for persons in Belize to place them in a better position for capital?
That's a very good question. And it's a question that we've asked of the region. If you look at reports that speak to the Caribbean and Latin America, a lot of the times, if you look into the methodology, there's not much data for the Caribbean there. Particularly small open economies such as Belize. We're about to close a study this year, IDB Lab, looking to study the venture capital ecosystem to answer that question, and hopefully next year we can include Belize in that. But what I'd mention, without having, I'm biased towards research first, but I'll speak anecdotally based on my professional experience, is that I think it's important to set the foundation for venture capital funds to want to come to the country and to incorporate and grow in the country. An important way that other countries have done that is to create the regulatory environment, not regulation that speaks broadly to MSMEs, not just regulation that speaks broadly, regulation that to venture capital and startups specifically. That speaks to the safe notes that, Alterna will help, investors to understand. That speaks to how the fund is incorporated and what it can do. And whether there are tax benefits or not. I'll stay away from the tax part, right? So setting that environment and then advertising that, look, we are open for business. This summit is a way of doing that. There are a lot of international investors here. And we're not just open for business, but you can come and register tomorrow, and here's everything. Here's all the ways that you can benefit from that. And we are unique from every other country because, and I'm just, speaking of the mind here, that we're unique from every other country because in our regulations, for example, we have relationships with Mexico, we have relationships with Costa Rica, with Guatemala, Honduras, etc., that allows companies to incorporate through us, but scale into those countries relatively easier rather than going to them directly. And of course, Belize already has CARICOM. So you can already incorporate in Belize and then scale into CARICOM relatively easy, right? As I say relatively there, you understand why, right? So I think having that regulatory framework is important. We spoke about universities. I think, and this is cliche, but it's very important, building a culture of entrepreneurship is also important. Sometimes in universities, we tend to, we tend to inadvertently or subconsciously strip entrepreneurship from them and creativity because we want them to be good workers, to go into the industries and to build industries, etc. But we should also teach them how to own. We should be teaching students how to form actively companies from university and scale, test within their University of Belize, etc., and encourage that type of culture within that space. I think it's important. Another important part of academia is research. A very important part, at least within the academic space. The relative cost, of doing research is relatively lower because, of course, the mechanisms are set up to do that. But we also need to, outside of anecdotal evidence, understand what entrepreneurs in Belize want, what the consumers want, where in the system we are, who the support organizations are, what the deficits are, what is needed to fill those roles, and how can academia and universities and all stakeholders help to fill those roles. That's a part of the study that we're doing in 5 countries in the Caribbean now, which should be released within 6 to 8 weeks. Those 5 countries are Jamaica, the Bahamas, Barbados, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. So hopefully next year we operate.
All right. Thanks. Any final words, Miss Aniela?
For me, what I'd be remiss to not encourage all the organizations and entrepreneurs here. If you are seeking funding, either debt or equity, you are familiar with the business, women-led. So we also support gender gaps as well. So that's a part of it. But businesses that are innovation and tech-driven and are impact-driven, then certainly reach out to us. I guess I'll just give my email, simonj@iadb.org, or you can reach out to the organizers. I hear there's an app, so there's an address book in the app. You can always message me through that as well. We're the investment part of IDB Lab. We're looking to build out the relationship that we have with the ecosystem in Belize. So I encourage you, this is the 3rd stage of this, I encourage you to continue to have summits like this and invite investors to come to Belize to see it for themselves. And Pedro is amazing. I think I'll have to come back personally at some point. But thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much to our final panelist of the day, Mr. Simon. You could not find a card because we don't gamble in Belize. But over the last few days, we've listened, we shared, and most importantly, we connected. So on behalf of the Office of the Prime Minister, Beltrade, EDC, IPCU, I want to thank you so much for being here for the Belize Investment Summit 2025. Thank you to our speakers, to all our participants, to all our sponsors, the entrepreneurs, our investors. We will see you at the next Belize Investment Summit 2027. Have a safe journey, safe travels back.